Hey everyone, I hope that you're well, and hello to you, milady. I have been living in Mexico for about 2 months now, predominantly in Tulum, but I've also been spending a little bit of time in Playa del Carmen and a little bit of travel around the Yucatan Peninsula as well. I'm here in Mexico on a tourist visa. We are so lucky to get a free 6-month tourist visa on arrival. I work online, so I still earn my money into my UK bank account, and my job is essentially this, being a YouTuber creating online content. I also sell digital products as well as having my clothing line solo, but I'm not going to be talking about earning money in this video. I'm going to be talking about spending. I wanted to share with you how much I have spent in a month living here in Tulum. And this kind of travel living style for me is actually very different. Normally when I leave England, I am backpacking. I'm staying in hostels. I'm constantly on the go. There's a start point, there's an end point. But obviously because of Corona, I haven't been so keen to stay in hostels this time, but also I'm not moving around very much. I'm choosing to base myself in one place for a long period of time. So it was kind of hard for me to set a budget for this trip because I didn't exactly know what my spending was going to look like in advance. So I just tried to set one which I thought was realistic for me and my earnings, enough to enjoy myself and treat myself, but not my total income. And also not so much that I can continue saving my money because I'm currently saving to buy a house, but also it is just good to have that extra bit of buffer money, you know? So with all of that in mind, my monthly budget for living in Mexico is £1,500 per month. And that's about $2,000 for those of you who are American. That's for everything that I do within Mexico. My accommodation, my travel, my food and my drink, my activities, and all of my necessities while I'm here. I don't take into account things like my Netflix subscription or my other online business expenses. This is just what I'm spending in Mexico, which is another good reason not to budget every single penny that you earn. So let's have a look at my breakdown of expenses over the past month and how I've been staying on track. I'm using the Backpacking Bananas single country budget tracker as I'm just in one country. This spreadsheet is available on backpackingbananas.com, as well as the Globetrotter budget tracker, which allows you to input several countries and currencies. I have a budget calculator as well to help you calculate an accurate budget for your personal backpacking adventure, and you can purchase these individually or as a bundle, and I will leave a link for all of that in the description. But like I said, I'm using the single country budget tracker for this trip. So I started on the first tab and input the country. That just changes the title at the top. Because my monthly budget is £1,500 per month, divide that by 30, that is £50 per day as my daily budget. You put this in your home currency, whatever that may be. And the local currency is Mexican pesos, and I have input how many Mexican pesos is equivalent to £1 here. And then down here, I've just popped down places that I'm visiting in Mexico. I add to this as I go along, and it helps with my breakdown at the end. Moving along, we have the tracker itself. So every single day I've been inputting into the yellow cells how much I spend on everything in the local currency. It then adds it up for me, converts it into pounds, then tells me if I'm over or under budget and by how much. And then on the far right column, it tells me if I'm over or under budget so far on my trip and if I'm on track. So this last column really is the most important because you will of course fluctuate day to day, but as long as you are in the green over here, you are doing good. So in my first month in Tulum, from the 9th of October to the 9th of November, I spent a total of £1,627, which is of course over my budget. I am in the red, and there are a few reasons for that, which I will go through, but the good news is that as you can see, when we scroll down, I'm now back in the green. I'm back on track and feeling quite swift about that. But let's go back to my first month and break down a few things just to give you a better idea of what I was spending my money on. So in my first week, I was super fortunate to not spend any money on accommodation as I was staying with my friend George. But I did spend 2,000 pesos on transport on day 2 because I bought a bike, which obviously was a big expense that I needed to make early on. Then I moved into my studio apartment, which I got on Airbnb. I paid for it in total in Great British pounds, but I converted the total figure into pesos and figured out what the daily rate is, which was about 700 pesos, which is about £26 per day, which would obviously then mean that I had about £25 per day to spend on other things. And when in Tulum, as you can see, I rarely spent money on travel because I had my bike and would literally just cycle everywhere in town. But occasionally I might catch a Colectivo bus to Playa del Carmen, which costs 45 pesos one way. Sometimes I might tack taxi across town if I was feeling too lazy, and that generally costs around 50 pesos, or a taxi from Tulum Centro to the beach generally costs around 200 pesos. And when I eventually sell my bike, I hope to get the majority of that 2,000 pesos back, because I like to think I've kept my bike in pretty good condition. As for food and drink, this is where the price can fluctuate so much. Unfortunately, the prices are quite literally tripled on the beach road. It's like London prices for food and cocktails on the beach. A cocktail typically costs around 250 Mexican pesos, and a small beer typically costs like 100 Mexican pesos. So if you are looking to go to the beach but save your money, I recommend picking up your own food and drinks just at the supermarket. Or you can purchase tacos on the street, which is always going to be your cheapest option. You will be well fed for under 100 Mexican pesos. Personally, I like tacos, but I get sick of them pretty quickly, which is why my food bill is often higher than it should be. And as for activities, as you can see, I really didn't do much. I spent my days either working on my laptop or heading to the beach, and the beach entrance is free. Occasionally I would go to a few cenotes, and the cenotes closer to Tulum, like Cenote Calavera, for example, costs 250 Mexican pesos for entry. But the further you go from Tulum, the kind of cheaper it gets, and cenote entries should only cost like 100 Mexican pesos. Generally, it is very affordable. I once did a temazcal ceremony, which was a very interesting experience. I didn't make a video on it, but maybe I'll talk about it at some point, as it is quite a popular thing to do in Tulum, and that costs 500 Mexican pesos. When I leave Quintana Roo, I expect to very easily stick to my budget of 1,500 pounds per month. To be honest, I think it's more than possible to live in Mexico for under 1,000 pounds a month. You can either stay in a hostel dorm room, which is obviously cheaper than a private. Also, by booking your accommodation monthly, you're going to get some good monthly discounts. Or you can obviously just opt to stay somewhere a lot more basic as well, without hot water, without aircon, without Wi-Fi. Obviously, when you want all of these luxuries, your accommodation is going to be more expensive. So obviously it's just about what is important for you to have in your apartment. You can eat local street food more often, sticking to beers rather than cocktails. That is something that I really struggle with, because beers just don't sit well in my stomach, and cocktails go down like a dream. So that's just a personal problem that I have to deal with. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this video, and if you'd like me to do another one, maybe in the month that I'm spending in Puerto Escondido. I know I find it fascinating to see what other people spend on their travels. I'm always trying to do better with my money, and I've certainly made a lot of financial mistakes while backpacking over the years. And in fact, I think I want to make a whole video on that soon, because I hope that you guys can learn quite a lot from my mistakes. If you'd like to track your spending for your travels in the same way that I do, so that you can stay on track for your budget, you can purchase my backpacking budgeting spreadsheets on backpackingbananas.com, and I'll leave a link for that in the description. I dread to think how much I would be going over my budget right now if I did not track my spending every day. When I see that column on the far right go red, I'm like, right, time to minimize. And it gives me such a rush when I see it in the green again. And it just makes me feel more comfortable in general about money, and that I'm continuing to live within my means. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.